Have you ever heard of a spiritual group that actually made it harder to join, not easier? It sounds kind of backward, right? Well, today we're digging into a 1989 lecture from a new movement called Happy Science that did just that. They completely flipped the script on how a religion is supposed to grow.
So, right off the bat, the founder tackles this huge common stereotype about religion. But, as we're about to see, the whole approach of happy science was designed to completely shatter that very idea.
You'd think the goal would be to attract massive crowds, right? Open the doors and let everyone in. But nope. In its early days, Happy Science deliberately made it tough to become a member. And the big question is, why on earth would they do that?
I mean, their strategy was the polar opposite of what you'd expect. While most groups are out there simplifying their message to make it more appealing, Happy Science required potential members to read over 10 books. And while others have an open-door policy, they had a pretty tough entrance exam. This was never about getting big numbers. It was about building a core group of really serious, dedicated learners. They even called their environment the Graduate School of Life. Just think about that name for a second. It's not a church, it's not a temple, it's a school. And that framing was totally intentional. They wanted to attract people who saw spiritual growth as a serious intellectual pursuit, not just some casual weekend hobby.
And trust me, they were not kidding about the difficulty. Get this. On one exam with about 2,000 new people, the average score was a staggering 93%. Apparently, it was so challenging that some university professors even failed it because they totally underestimated what they were getting into. The message was loud and clear. Only the truly committed should even bother applying. So, you might be wondering what exactly was on the curriculum at this spiritual grad school. Well, the absolute central idea, the real core of their teaching, was all about learning to see the world from a completely new vantage point. The speaker used this simple but really powerful metaphor. He said that most of us are living our lives on the first floor, totally trapped in our day-to-day problems and worries. But their teachings offered a way to climb up the stairs to the second floor, a spiritual viewpoint where you can actually look down on your own life and finally see the bigger picture. Let's break that down a little. Living on the first floor means you're just tangled up in attachments. You're stressing out about a relationship that ended, or you feel totally crushed by the pressure of passing an exam. From that ground level view, these problems feel absolutely massive, like they're the only thing that matters.
But from the second floor, the whole perspective shifts. That failed romance isn't just a painful dead end. Maybe it's the necessary step that leads you to your actual soulmate 2 years down the road. This higher view doesn't just magically erase the pain, but it reframes it as one small part of a much bigger, much more meaningful journey.
And what's really fascinating here is that this new perspective isn't just for your personal problems. It fundamentally changes how you see the entire world, right down to your taste in art, music, and literature.
For instance, with this viewpoint, you don't just hear Beethoven's Ninth Symphony as beautiful music. You start to feel the heavenly vibration of his enlightenment. You begin to develop a kind of spiritual discernment where you can feel which art is truly elevating your soul and which art, no matter how popular or skillful it is, might be rooted in something more hellish or chaotic.
Now, this whole second floor perspective isn't just about personal enlightenment. The goal was to take this higher view and apply it to, well, everything, from your own inner world to the entire world at large. On a grand scale, they called this public happiness. The idea was to use that higher perspective to look at huge global conflicts, political fights, economic disputes, and find the deeper spiritual truths and errors that could actually lead to real solutions, instead of just staying on the surface, arguing. And then, on the personal micro level, the goal is private happiness. And the core teaching here is so powerful. It's not your circumstances that make you unhappy. It's how you choose to direct your own mind. The belief is, if you can learn to steer your thoughts, you can steer your entire life toward genuine happiness. So the big question is, how do you actually do all of this? The lecture boils it all down to one single, lifelong practice that is right at the very heart of their philosophy. This core practice is called the search for a right heart. And what's interesting is how it's described. It's both the starting line and the finish line of the whole spiritual journey. It's not just something you do to get in, it's the entire path itself. So what does it actually come down to? It's really this daily discipline of self-reflection. It's a constant process. First, you observe your own thoughts. Second, you check which way your inner needle is pointing. Is it towards something hellish like anger or greed? Third, if it's off course, you immediately correct it.
And finally, you consciously aim your heart toward a heavenly direction. This constant effort is seen as the absolute foundation for changing not just yourself, but the entire world. So, that's a little glimpse into the philosophy of happy science, at least from back in its early days. And it leaves us with a pretty powerful question to think about. If you could really see your own life from that second floor, what do you think would look different?